This is an opportunity to look at the way in which the world of art jewelry is developing, diversifying, and it builds on the platform of ambassadors, which involves representatives from countries around the world who keep us informed about what's happening in their countries. And the idea of these hangouts is to focus on different regions so that we get to hear from the ambassadors in particular parts of the world to understand how art jewelry is developing. And all along it involves a conversation about the two models of global art jewelry. One is a model which sees art jewelry as expanding in scale as more galleries start to exhibit and to sell art jewelry, and this increases the overall size of the art jewelry world. And the other is one where the art jewelry world is something which diversifies, so that as different countries and cultures join these networks, they contribute something different. So our concept of art jewelry diversifies as well. So the one model is kind of like athletics, or like the Olympics, where essentially it doesn't matter which country you come as long as you run the fastest. Whereas in the other one, it's a more cultural one in terms of thinking about ornament, the body, and the different meanings it has in different cultures. So these are models that help us think about what's happening in each of these countries. So we're very lucky today to have 4 representatives from East Asia. We have from China, just arrived after what seemed like bad traffic, Li Liang and Dandan Xing. And we also have from Japan, Machiko Akiyama,
Yes.
and from Taiwan, Yufeng Chi, and from South Korea, Misun Rim. I'll introduce each of these as we go. So the idea of this hangout is to hear from each of the ambassadors about the particular scene where they are, and to understand how art jewelry fits into their culture. And at the end we can have a brief discussion about to what extent art jewelry might be different in East Asia. So shall we start in China? Are you ready? We're fortunate to have excuse me, 2 people helping represent China. Li Liang, who is a Chinese artist living and practicing in Sweden, and so reflects that kind of, given the fact that art jewelry has its home, its birthplace in Europe, somebody who strands that. And she's has a person who's working with her, Dandan Xing, who has been helping out. Are you both there this morning? We can't hear you, unfortunately. So while do you want to just check to see, Dandan, how that's working, if we can get through to you? Maybe while Dandan's doing that, we can go to South Korea. Now, Misun Rim is somebody who's had a very long and distinguished career in curating, and she studied at the Royal College of Art, and she's been recently working with the Korean Crafts and Design Foundation, setting up an exhibition at Les Arts Décoratifs in Paris, which had an overview of Korean jewelry, and she's becoming increasingly involved. She also lectures in Kookmin University and Sukmyong. We've heard some of that in recent articles in AJF. So, Misun, can you tell us about what you see as being the art jewelry scene in South Korea, particularly Seoul?
It's been increasingly, how do you say, large scale in terms of the crafts field. Contemporary Korean crafts, there are many mediums, especially the ceramic, metal, the furniture, the wood crafts, and then the fiber crafts are the major. But in the metal crafts, the jewelry, especially the art jewelry, is quite large part, and the younger generation is very actively involved in. I'm not sure whether you know it or not, but the art jewelry in Korea is started from the 1980s, and then from the first generation, the people who has been abroad for the study, and they come back to Korea, and they teach it to the method and the techniques and other things to the people. Mainly the conceptual aspects are the main factor for the educator. And now it's become more like a fourth generation, the third and fourth generation, mostly like a certain age of 30, and then and the 40, some of them. They are the main people who make work and body of the work largely. And we have a quite a number of galleries specializing on art jewelry called Bulgoje, Space Jewel, R1, and Gallery Baum, and we have one museum called Bona Jangsingu Museum, which focusing on the art jewelry. And then we have a academic educational system, and then quite a number of the university focus on the art jewelry. And then so we have a quite active movement, and then active artists who involved in this field internationally.
Mm. Excuse me. So we're so familiar with the extraordinary Korean metalcraft, which is evident in many artists who are living or staying in other countries as well as in Korea. If you had a stab at it, Miss Sun, what would you say would be a distinguishing feature of art jewelry in Korea? Can you see a characteristic?
Yes, I can tell you one or two characteristic elements. The first one is the material, the medium variety. The younger generation, as I said to you, the most younger generation interested in the art jewelry than the metal art, making a vessel form. Because before the metal artists are majorly making the vessel, but now I can say most of the people who studied in the metal art, and they only focusing on art jewelry, and then they are very interested in the new material and the new technique, like silicone, the Velcro, and some other material which we never used as a material. And that's the first character. And the second character is the theme. And the sub theme is more involved in the narrative of the human, and also the nature. I mean the animals and the plants. Some kind of the life. Try to make the form of the life cycles, which is related to the human nature and also the environment where we live in.
Hmm. So it's a combination of experimentation with materials in art jewelry, but also a reference to nature.
Yes.
Uh, Thanks very much, Misun. Can we go to Japan now, to Machiko Akiyama,
Yes.
who's an independent writer born in Osaka, and she in 2013 she launched a newsletter in Japanese that regularly features translated articles from art jewelry forums. So where do we talk to you right now, Machiko?
Sorry.
Where are you now?
Here in Japan.
Yes.
Like yes,
Yes.
now I am in Tokyo.
Okay.
And recently I write for a jewelry forum, Clim 2, and a current obsession.
It's great to see you. So, what do you think about the art jewelry scene in Japan at the moment?
At the moment, a lot of
Yes, continue.
okay. Okay. It looks that a lot of young artists are starting to studying their career as designers and artists. And I think a commercialistic aspect is rather strong in Japan because it looks people are willing to wear pieces in their daily life. And looking back the history, I think Japan has a quite long history of contemporary jewelry. But for me, it looks that the quality of their work or techniques are not always passed down to the next generation. So I see a kind of a disconnection between each generation. I think that what happens. So it looks that most of the works from artists are based on their personal history. So it's somehow difficult to see a certain lineage. Of course, there are a few. So some people works on more traditional Japanese techniques, and other people try to see what is happening in contemporary jewelry art, but it's not one general direction. It's like there are various small groups are coexisting in the jewelry scene. I think that's what I see. But at the same time, this is what I see in the contemporary jewelry scene. In Japan, there is no general archive of information of the history, so I think almost each person has different view on what is happening in contemporary jewelry. I think that's a big problem.
So there isn't a national organization or forum for that?
Well, I think Japan Jewelry Designers Association it's still working, but it's not like they know all the information what is happening, especially about what is happening what is happening among younger jewelers, I guess.
Well, that's one of the things we hope the Ambassadors program can promote is communication, not just internationally, but also within each country. We've experienced that with many of the ambassadors, that it can be useful in that way. But if you had to choose a particular scene, I don't want to put you on the spot, Machiko, but if you had to choose a particular scene in Japan that you thought was interesting in terms of art jewelry, what would you offer?
I think so we are supposed to show two images, right? So
yes.
I picked up one image that shows an mobile gallery and Otto Kunzuri's exhibition. So last year there was a big retrospective of Otto Kunzuri in Tokyo, and I think that started up recognition among this one. So I think it was good opportunities for more people to know what art jewelry is. So maybe in Japan, like maybe the same as the most of other countries, but the jewelry scene is completely kind of closed. So showing closed, but I think this kind of big retrospective has a kind of could work out as a good opportunity for people to know what is happening.
Yes, well, we do see in art jewelry a lot of experimentation these days on the street, and many of
Yes.
the events that you submit to us seem to happen in spaces like libraries and out in the open. So that seems an interesting development in Japan. Perhaps we can turn now to Taiwan and to Yufeng Chi, who has been writing regularly for the Taiwan Craft magazine.
Yes.
And keeping readers informed about what's happening in art jewelry in the Asia Pacific region. So, Yufeng, can you tell us about the contemporary jewelry scene in Taiwan?
Okay. I think I may not share my PowerPoints. I just talk about the current events in Taiwan. And last December, and the Taiwan Craft Research and Development Institute, which like a craft center in Taiwan, the most important institute of craft, they just have a new building in Taipei. And the building is a historical building, and it's built in 1958. So it's a quite an old building. And now they belong to the craft center, and it's a 7th-floor historical building. And they start to have a different function and have a wonderful exhibition in Taipei. And for example, in their building, they have a restaurant which they serve the dinner with a craft container, or they have a shop for contemporary jeweler or craft person to sell their pieces. And they also have a very important function to preserve the traditional craft technique. Yeah. And last December, they have two important exhibitions. One called Masterpiece, which show us lots of traditional craftsmen's wonderful piece. And another exhibition is, wait a minute. Maybe I share some image of the exhibition so you can see. It's okay? Can you see this?
Maybe not.
No.
Oh, not yet?
Not yet?
Not yet. It's okay?
If you
It's
can,
okay now?
we can see your screen, but we can see the Hangout. So if you turn
Okay.
to the image that you wanted to show
Okay, yeah.
on your computer.
It's okay. Maybe I just keep going. Yeah. And so, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah. And I think there's two strands. Like in Taiwan, the government, they have their function to preserve traditional craft, but more and more jewelers, especially young generation, they start to found their own gallery. Like in Taipei, we have a Manon, the very important gallery run by two jewelry artists, and they curate lots of exhibition. And they also have a different perspective of how contemporary jewelry is. And like from 2013 to 2015, they run maybe more than 6 or more than 8 wonderful international exhibitions, which have connection to different countries. And like this September, they are going to invite the Makers Move, the like events in Taiwan. And the other important new gallery in Kaohsiung called Pin Studio. And they are also 3 members from previous group called Bench AA6. Maybe you know about this group. This group, they also run several exhibitions in Germany. Yeah, and they run the exhibition, tour exhibition, go through the Hong Kong and Shanghai and Taiwan, and they also collect lots of artists to run different projects. And I think there is a current development in Taiwan, like a young generation, more and more they try to found their own gallery. They try to find their own space to speak out their own voice. Yeah.
Well, that's very encouraging. That's something which happened I can remember that happening in Melbourne in the 1990s.
Yeah.
It's from the bootstraps, basically, to artists starting their scene. Somebody like Mari Funaki, her gallery was started because she couldn't find a gallery she wanted to be part of, so she set it up. So just briefly, Yufeng, do you think there's any particular characteristic that distinguishes Taiwanese contemporary jewelry?
I think a little bit like Miss Sang talk about many artists, they come back to Korea, and I think many jewelry artists, they may study abroad or they may study in Taiwan. They also come back to the markets, come back to the real world, I think, and they try to not only stay in their studio, but they want to have a connection with the world. So that's why they all want to curate lots of exhibitions, not only to be an artist, but also be a curator. And they also want to have a connection to the world. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Yufeng. I'm just wondering, Dan, whether it's possible to hear you now. Can we hear you? No, I'm afraid not. That's a shame. If you can try a setting to help us hear you, but otherwise, in the time we've got remaining, we can think about some of the overall ideas around jewelry in East Asia. You know, the contemporary jewelry world at the moment still is one where the highlight is in Munich, Schmuck, each year when the jewelry world gathers, and we've seen increasing representation from countries in East Asia like Taiwan especially. And I'm interested to know if you think that there are emerging events, international events, that contribute to the art jewelry scene in East Asia as well, that provide points of reference, as well as all the galleries that are emerging. Is there potential for an art jewelry festival, something of this order?
I think like last year in Melbourne, and we have a Radiant Pavilion, the jewelry festival. And I really hope in Taiwan, because we got more and more gallery coming and more studio, I really hope in the future in Taiwan we can also have like a jewelry festival, maybe not only in one city, but in whole Taiwan, I think it would be a great connection. Yeah.
Well, I guess it could be in the same way that the visual arts world has a calendar of biennales. Although Venice is the major one, still there are biennales in different parts of the world, and they tend to be popular in parts of the world which are outside the West, particularly like Istanbul or so on. So given Radiant Pavilion and In Construction in South America, and the big event last year in Beijing, the possibility is that we can begin to see that emerge in the jewelry scene, which could be very interesting. But more generally, can you see elements connecting the countries together of East Asia that are shared in common, that may be different to other parts of the world? Miss Sun, you seem to be on mute at the moment. We can't seem to hear you.
Okay, how about it?
There we go. Can you just
Okay.
say that again?
Yeah, last year and early this year, I curated the exhibition called Korea Now. One in the Paris earlier you mentioned, and then the other one I curated in the early this year in Munich during the Shumuk, and it was a quite good experience to see the Korean contemporary art jewelry to bring most of the artists. But in Korea, there are not many group exhibition, but the individual artists try to how do you say, send their work to the international competition, and some of them, the artists who win a prize. So it's not kind of the grouping works. Individual work is more, how do you say, the active. So that's the kind of scene of Korea. As the Yu Fang mentioned, the Korean younger generation also try to connect with the international the network, as well as try to find the market as well. So they are mostly focusing on the individual work than the group work. That's the scene at the moment in Korea.
Mm-hmm. And do you see the much engagement or dialogue in Korea with what's emerging in Taiwan, Japan, and China?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen many of the Asian network, but recently I've seen the one exhibition in the Gallery Bogoje, and the exhibition title was Extended Life, which is try to find the possibility of the material in the natural way. So the artists try bring the material wood, and then they try to make the art jewelry. But most of the artists, it was an international exhibition, but most of the artists come from the Netherlands and the Sweden and some other countries from Europe. So I can see more, how do you say, connection with the American or European, mostly European. But unfortunately, I haven't seen many, how do you say, relation in between among the Asian country. But I think that we had to find out. There are some comments I can see it, but the younger generation working hard and try to find the market, and they try to explore in material in the new ways. So that's the connection, but we haven't got much action on it.
Hmm. From the outside, one common point of interest is, which might seem part of the East Asian scene as a cultural element, is Buddhism in its different forms, such as Taoism, Zen, even Confucianism. You've mentioned, Misun, a reference to nature in some way, which can have resonance in aspects of Buddhism. Is that something which might have an influence in art jewelry, do you think?
Yeah, I think the Korean contemporary jewelry maker are quite seriously involved in the life, how do you say, routine of the life. So it's which is related to the nature. And I had one chance to chat with the very famous German the educator and artist. And he mentioned about his quite strong character of the nature, which is involved in the art jewelry scene in Korea.
That's interesting. Any comments, Machiko or Yufang, about?
You mean a connection with Buddhism?
Yes, Zen.
I don't see a connection to Zen or Buddhist idea in contemporary scene, I guess. And speaking about the connection with other East Asian nations, a few galleries have a connection with Korea. So sometimes they feature Korean artists, or sometimes they do group shows with Japanese artists and Korean artists, and sometimes other European nation or the artists from the United States. But I think it's mostly same with South Korea. So a lot of people see more what is happening in Europe and the United States than the Eastern Asian.
I think I don't see a very clear connection to the East concept as well. And I think the jeweler concept, the Taiwanese jeweler, they are all individual. So some of them study abroad, so maybe some of them still more focus on what they learn from different countries. And they do have some individual, they use Taiwanese caricature or Taiwanese flower to be their concept, but not all. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Yufang. We should bring it to an end now because our half hour is expired. I want to thank you all for being part of this. Finally, I just want to read out something that Dandan Xing typed, which is that I think mainland China has a similar situation with Taiwan, but still slower than them because of the information blockages. But these days, the young generation want to know more and more about art jewelry and to study it. Many of them have been overseas, and that's why she and Li Yang have opened their own studio to educate local students and to develop an art jewelry exhibition. And I guess that's one of the issues that comes up too, is the academic nature of art jewelry, which is particularly strong in China. And perhaps we can try again a little later, Dandang, sort out this technical issue and maybe even have a focused discussion around China, because it's a shame because it's such an emerging and important scene not to hear directly from you. But I think we get a sense that as these art jewelry scenes grow and develop further, that jewelers from East Asia play an increasingly important role in the global scene, and this, as many of you said, is particularly as individual artists. So it's the kind of first model, the kind of Olympic model that we were talking about. But at the moment there is relatively limited engagement between the countries of East Asia, which may change if events evolve, like biennales or art jewelry conferences or festivals, where it might be interesting to see what kind of interaction can emerge along those lines. But I just want to thank you so much, not just for being here this morning, but also for contributing your knowledge of your local scene, for promoting what's happening so that people can feel connected. It's a global community art jewelry forum, and it's wonderful that we know of what's happening in Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and China. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
谢谢. Obrigado.
Bye.
감사합니다.